Mark here for another great Wisdom and Knowledge 5 podcast episode. And this week I'm going to talk about data centers and how they are pure evil and why we must stand up to them, like people are across the country and across the world, I'm sure. You know, anyways, they're popping up left and right, at a rapid rate. And I wanted to just share some videos, just break things down because if there's one thing that humanity as a whole can agree on, they don't want these data centers. People are showing up in towns, cities, left and right, saying no to this. And we have to continue to stand because this is the end game. Data centers, yeah, it's an end game. It will completely destroy humanity, and it's something that we do not support. We do not need. We never needed data centers before. We don't need them now. It is a scam. It is pure evil. It, destroys our environment. You name it, left and right. And let's get into it because this is a very important topic. And I want to share this right here. So look at this right here. There was a data center in Saline, Michigan, which is outside Ann Arbor. It's on the east side of Michigan. And right here, look who's in the picture. Sam Altman and the governor, Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan. Now, those who listen to my podcast, they know I'm not into politics. I don't play the left versus right game. I don't vote. I don't participate in that nonsense that is a conquer and divide strategy. But there's people out there who vote and think this side's good, the other side's bad. Well, look at this, the face of evil, Sam Altman and the governor of Michigan, who doesn't care. The people of Saline did not want this data center. They don't. They went and they protested and they stood against it. And look at these evil pricks. And what's funny about this is this just popped up in my feed, and it's ABC 7 News, Detroit, and the actual person who wrote this article is like, are you so far out of touch with humanity, with what the public people want, that you would do this? Well, you asked and we delivered. We're giving you news on data centers. And then they're a pro data center pushing this. Oracle and OpenAI barn data center breaks ground in Saline Township. And this is, devastating. It really is. All right, here we go.
Bet you didn't see this. Why do all of these people look like they're absolutely soulless? Every time they talk, you're just like, anyway, watch this.
My hope is this can be a example for the world where the world can benefit incredibly from AI out of a data center like this, and the local community can be thrilled with the decision.
So you read that right. Sam Altman sued this township for opposing the construction of a data center. Sued them. And now he's giving a speech and lecturing them on why it still makes sense to build that data center, even though they all opposed it, and he just got done suing the township to make it happen. Because he won. And now that data center is going to be built regardless of what those people in that township thought and wanted.
We know how complex of a project this is. We know what the current attitude towards data centers in the world is, and I'll come back to this, but I think we can make this a great example for the future. But this is a huge bet, and this is something that is not an easy project. Hopefully someday we'll all read about some incredible thing AI has done for society.
Yeah, hopefully.
It's easy to throw around these numbers. 1 gigawatt, hard to conceptualize that.
just throwing around those numbers, right? Yeah, hard to conceptualize.
This many tens of billions of dollars sounds like a big number.
No, it is a massive number. And most people can't even fathom that kind of number. These people have no concept whatsoever. He's sitting there talking about how people can't understand these numbers and they can't understand the amount of power that it, yeah, because it's absolutely astronomical. And most people don't understand that level of power because that level of power has never been needed for anything.
Hard to conceptualize that too. And it's easy to look out at this right now and say, okay, looks like another construction site, looks like a big project, sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah, it's completely foreign to 99.9% of the population because nobody has ever touched even close to that amount of money. So it just seems fake.
It is very important to us that this become a model for how data centers and communities can mutually benefit each other.
So now you have an entire township that opposes the building of this data center, and Sam just says, well, we're just going to sue you and make it happen anyway. And then he says, we want this to become a model of how this works. It's almost like nobody really ever had a chance to stand against this in the first place. And it's almost like it's because people continue to become more apathetic and more indifferent to the actions that are being taken. It's like that slow cooking frog thing that many of us have been talking about for years. But hey, I'm just a conspiracy theorist.
And that is, so true. I mean, you look at the face of evil, look no further than Sam Altman, you know. So we as humanity need to continue to stand up, need to continue to say, hey, no, we don't want this. We don't want this, and massively stand up and, rise up for our community, rise up for our, where we live, because, this is our future. Our future's being destroyed because of this. I want to get into some other videos too about the data centers. So let's go and check these out. First responders dealt with over 80 emergencies at 2 AI data centers in Ohio. Get this right here in Allen Park, Michigan. That's how you do it.
So all these data centers that keep going up all over the place? Those are connected to 6G and the robots. That's why they're pushing that stuff so hard. People are wondering why they keep pushing these AI data centers so much. AI data center, you got to look this up. It's called AI Iran, okay? And what are we in right now? What war are we in right now? Iran's war, right? Well, there, if you look up, it's called AI Iran. That is the connection to 6G, and that is the connection to the data centers, and that is what they're going to do next. So when they're pushing these data centers, people need to push back against this stuff, because that is the Terminator coming into real life. This is why they're trying to put the data centers in each state right there. Each state has these data centers, because when they roll out these robots, these drones, these robot things that try to move around and whatever else they do, that is the connection to that. And I was going through it and I was like, wait a minute. So they're distracting people with the war, right? While they roll out the technology with the exact same name. Think about that. That's what they do. Every single time, they always cover things up. They always, whatever the word is right here, they will put out something like a song or a music video or something like that to get rid of that name. And they've done this with, you look up Tesla and you find an electric vehicle now. You don't find Nikola Tesla, you find an electric vehicle. So they do these things to get rid of one thing so you don't look that up, and then now you switch it over here. So that is the 6G push, and the 6G is crazy when it comes to it.
Okay, look at this right here.
Data centers will take the lives of 90% of the population. I'm not talking about artificial intelligence. I'm talking about the infrastructure being built around it. Because people think data centers are only for chatbots and internet searches, but they're also tied to surveillance systems, data collection, predictive algorithms, facial recognition, military technology, and the next generation of digital control. And the justification for all of it, we're competing with China. That's what Americans keep hearing, but here's the part nobody talks about. America already has more data centers than any other country on Earth, thousands of them. Entire regions are being transformed to support even more expansion. Massive power lines, new substations, industrial water usage, farmland disappearing, communities changing almost overnight. People are already fighting transmission projects tied to a growing data center demand. Residents near some data centers explain about constant industrial noise, stress, and entire neighborhoods starting to feel more like industrial zones than a community. And while regular Americans are told to conserve energy and water, these facilities consume unbelievable amounts of both just to keep the systems running. Because this isn't the cloud. These are massive industrial facilities designed to store, process, track, and control enormous amounts of information. This is the physical infrastructure of the digital age being built across America right in front of us. And once society becomes fully dependent on it, there's no going back.
Exactly. And this is like I've said before, this is the one thing that everyone is against and everyone is standing united against is these data centers. We don't want them. We don't need them. We don't want them. Get out. You know, humanity is rising up. Contrary to what the media wants to push, media wants to. No, humanity is rising up for the same cause. Check this out right here.
Let's talk about the real life consequences of AI that are happening right now. So the AI that you're using, your social media apps, it doesn't exist in a cloud. It exists in a data center. What look like giant warehouses, but they really house all of these servers. One critical thing is the amount of electricity that these data centers require. Business Insider calculated as a range. On the low end, that's as much as the state of Ohio used in 2023, their entire electricity use. On the high end, it's about as much as Florida used in that same year. So let's talk about data centers' impact on local economies. All of these different cities across the country are racing to have data centers built in their areas. In Ohio, cities are making these deals with large companies like Amazon that are very profitable. What we found is that for every full-time, long-term job that's employed at a data center, Amazon might be saving as much as $1 million in taxes that they don't pay to the state or the cities. And what jobs do come from data centers are pretty much in their construction and wrap up long before your economic development deal is done. And data centers are also contributing in major ways to air and water pollution. Because of data centers' skyrocketing electricity demand, a lot of utilities are starting to say, we can't meet this demand without relying more and more on fossil fuels. So this is causing more and more air pollution. The power generation for these data centers could contribute $5.7 to $9.2 billion of annual public health costs, in numbers of hundreds of thousands of additional asthma cases that can be wheezing, tightness of the chest, difficulty breathing, and can be hundreds of additional deaths each year. And what is it like living next to these giant data centers? So these residents are living right next to these industrial facilities that are running 24/7, and they're making this really ominous drone noise. So it's a constant noise of their cooling fans. Some residents told us that they can actually hear it inside their houses, and some had to sleep in the basement because they couldn't sleep. And how are data centers deepening the water crisis? So to power those data centers, you need a huge amount of electricity, and those servers get really hot, so you need something to cool them. Sometimes data centers are using water to cool their servers. They're finicky drinkers. They only really want to use drinking water. Data centers are competing directly with residents who are living in the desert where there's already not enough water to go around. Business Insider requested records of how much water every data center is using. We've got a lot of redacted records, and in 2 cases, cities actually sued us to prevent the release of those records. There's a lot of interest in the promise of AI, but the costs are already right here, and they're impacting us today.
I'll say this is that, we stand united. We have one common thing that we are united about in our society, and that's standing against these data centers. And we must continue to be united, set aside differences, and stand against these data centers because this truly is the end game, destruction on so many levels. Affects the environment, affects people's health, you name it. This, that, and the other for something that we don't need. And in a society where the rich are getting richer, the billionaires are getting, making more billions, we, the people, can stand against this. We can stop the ones that are into the political nonsense. Stop. They're not for you. They're not for you. They're against you. They don't represent you. Contrary to popular belief, yeah, they work for us. But those political entities, they don't. They work for APAC, they work for this, that, and the special interests, they work for the billionaires, they don't work for the people. They don't. And it's just common knowledge. So much love to everyone who's taking a stand. Share this video far and wide because I don't know how much longer this particular video will be up because they don't want you speaking out against data centers. So, but I'm not going to be silent. Not when it comes to this, not when it comes to our future. No, I'm going to stand up with the people worldwide. Much love to everyone who understands what's going on in the world, who is taking a stand. That's what we need. Take care. Peace.